Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening to the June 2014 meeting of the Abingdon, Virginia Council. We welcome all of you this evening. A couple things I would note before we get started. First of all, if you have a cell phone with you, we would ask that you either turn it off or put it on stun, as we say, so there will not be any disruption this evening during the course of the meeting. Also, I would point out that all of our council members, in anticipation of each meeting, receive a package of materials to provide us with some background information about the issues that we will be considering at each meeting. A copy of the materials that we receive is available on the table over to my left. You're welcome to have a look at that, and if there's any questions and so forth, you can feel free to let us know. There will be several opportunities tonight to raise or bring issues before the town council. We will be having one public hearing this evening, and at that time the public will be permitted to come forward and bring us any issues or comments they have about that specific issue. And then later during the course of the meeting, there will be an opportunity for members of the public to address us on other items which are not on the agenda. So again, if you have issues or concerns, you can feel free to come forward and address us. That being said, I will ask our clerk, Ms. Cecile Rosenbaum, if she will call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deering. Here. Mr. Howard.
Here.
Mr. Humphreys.
Here.
Mrs. Lowe. Here. Mayor Morgan.
Here.
And let the record reflect that all 5 council members are present.
Thank you very much. It is customary to begin our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I see our Chief of Police, Tony Sullivan, coming forward, and he will lead us tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It is my privilege tonight to note that we have one ceremony which doesn't happen but about every 2 years at our council meetings. As some of you may recall, back the early part of May, we had an election here in town. And it is with great pleasure that I note that all 4 of our council members who were up for re-election were re-elected by the public. But we are required by law to have an oath of office administered to each member of the council. And we are very pleased tonight, we are honored, to have His Honor, Judge Sage Johnson, with us this evening to administer the oaths of office. And at this time, I will ask the judge if he will come forward, and I believe our town clerk, and basically we're all going to come on down, and we will administer the oaths and go from there.
Okay. All right. There you go. That sounds good. Y'all want to line up? Whatever. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And I understand some of you all may have family or friends that would like to join you, or I don't know.
Well, I think they ought to come forward with the time.
I was going to take the ladies first, so I was going to take Kathy first. So.
Excuse me, I'm going to take over and keep our town clerk company, since I'm the only member of council that does not
This
have
way?
to
Yeah.
Which way? Okay.
All right. There we go. Give Mr. Stevens.
Okay.
Raise your right hand. and
You
repeat
get
it.
a little closer.
Sure. As long as he doesn't mind.
Very good.
Perfect. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Kathy C. Lowe,
I, Kathy C. Lowe,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform all of the duties
discharge and perform all of the duties
incumbent upon me
incumbent upon me
as a member of the Abingdon, Virginia Town Council
as a member of the Abingdon, Virginia Town Council
for a term beginning July 1, 2014
for a term beginning July 1, 2014
and ending June 30th, 2018,
and ending June 30th, 2018,
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my abilities,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. if you'll sign this, and then I'll sign. Repeat after me. I, Jane A. Deary,
I, Jane A. During,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge and perform
all
all of the duties incumbent upon me
of the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Abingdon, Virginia Town Council
as a member of the Abingdon, Virginia Town Council
for a term beginning
for a term beginning
July 1, 2014,
July 1, 2014,
and ending June 30th, 2016,
and ending June 30, 2016,
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my abilities. So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Dave.
Yes. We've got a couple of students.
It's the other Susan. You have two. This is Susan Humphries. And your mom's up here.
My mom's here.
Oh,
I've
we
got,
have Mayor Emeritus Humphries.
actually, I have a son back there in the door, but I'm
Do
not
you?
sure we'll coax you out the,
He come from-
there you come.
Yeah. It's an intimidating place.
Don't make it.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Richard E. Rick Humphries,
I, Richard E. Rick Humphries,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
all
of the duties incumbent upon me
the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Abingdon, Virginia Town Council
as a member of the Abingdon, Virginia Town Council
for a term beginning July 1, 2014,
of the term beginning July 1, 2014,
and ending June 30th, 2018,
and ending June the 30th, 2018,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Last but not least.
If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Robert M. Bob Howard,
I, Robert M. Bob Howard,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all of the duties incumbent upon me
all of the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Abingdon, Virginia Town Council
as a member of the Abingdon, Virginia Town Council
for a term beginning July 1, 2014,
for a term beginning July 1, 2014,
and ending June 30, 2018,
and ending June 30th, 2018,
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So Let me go.
We're going to get one of them.
Congratulations to all of you all.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all.
Take time to do that.
Oh, very welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Now, I think that gentleman back there has going to take a picture or two, certainly the council, but we'd like to have you and
Oh,
our
you want
clerk
to
and
stage?
others.
We'll do it.
Don't you have?
Y'all want to go up on
Won't you do that?
the seal,
Or
or do you want to come to the ground? I think the seal would look really nice.
Okay. And, let's see, I'd like to have the judge in one of these.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Okay. You know what you need on that robe is a panel seat. We can do that. All right.
You all want to take the picture?
Yeah, I think he wants us
Down
over there.
there? Yes, up, but.
All right.
Stay.
Okay.
If we can squinch up.
Squeeze in.
Squinch and smile.
It's really to eat.
That looks good, really good. Everybody smile happy.
We're happy.
You gotta be extra happy. All right, we're looking good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
All
again.
want to take one without me?
No.
No, I think we're
These
good.
people
This
we
works
get
great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
That's mine.
Oh, shoot.
Lois Humphrey's cushion.
Okay, thank you. Again, I appreciate Judge Johnson for being with us this evening and handling the administration of the oath, and I'm very pleased that family members could be with us here for this occasion as well. I will take a moment to note that there is one person who's not with us this evening, and that is our town manager, Mr. Greg Kelly. And Mr. Kelly's father is not doing well, and Greg is with him this evening. I think this is the first time that, I think we figured out tonight that he's only missed physically one meeting, and that was 2 years ago when the council or several council members were in England, and he was Skyped in for that occasion. So I would ask you to keep Mr. Kelly and his father, everyone in their prayers, and we'll look forward to having him back here with us again, hopefully at our next meeting. At this point in time, we have special employee acknowledgments and an introduction of some new police officers. And we're going to ask Mr. Jackson if he'll take care of that this evening. And I think let's do the employee acknowledgments first, please. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As is occasion, the past few years, the administration and the council would like to recognize individuals who work for the town for their years of service. This evening, we have an individual, Mr. Nathaniel John Wolf, if you'll come on up. If you've been to any town events in the past 20 years, be they on town property or otherwise, and the Parks and Rec Department has been involved, you've seen this gentleman there. Not always smiling, but he's always he's taking care of the duties they're in, and so for your 20 years of service, the town would like to present you with this, and your 20-year belting. We thank you for everything you've done.
Stand in the middle.
Yeah.
Smile again, everybody's happy. Happy day. Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your service. It is very much appreciated. All right. Thank you. We'll see you in another 20. All righty. And we have some new police officers, and I believe Chief Sullivan is here to make some introductions this evening.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of council, there's probably nothing more important that I do than hire folks, because the police department, other than the folks that drive the trash trucks, as you know, are the most visible form of government. And so when I put a face in the community, I want to make sure that it's the right face. I want to get the right people on the bus. And the one thing I do constantly when going through a hiring process is ask myself, is this the best you can do? Is this the best you can do? And because I want to make sure that it is the best that I can put out there. The three folks that are with me tonight, you can come up here if you will. Started out as an applicant amongst about 70, and we quickly whittled it down to about 40 on test day. And as often the case, the cream rises to the top. And this is the best we could do on test day. And I can honestly say we've got some good folks coming in here. To tell you a little bit about them, I noticed the clerk, she had them listed alphabetically backwards, and she knows I'm OCD, and I had them alphabetically forwards. So on the agenda, I'm going to go with my agenda. She did that to me on purpose. We're going to start with the rose amongst the thorns, Andrew Mill. And these two have been wearing him out. I'm going to tell you. I told him that it was like having 3 wives, because he's got one at home, and they have just been wearing him out. Andrew was raised in Washington County, and he currently resides in Bristol, Tennessee. He graduated from Virginia Highlands Community College and is currently enrolled at King, majoring in criminal justice. He has about a year worth of coursework remaining. He's got a long affiliation with the town through family businesses. Mel's on Main, which was a bakery for a while, and they still set up on the farmer's market, and I told him if he comes in regularly with scones and muffins, we're going to have a really big problem.
They're first rate.
Yes, they are. Andrew is married, and he has a 22-month-old son, and I would ask that you please welcome Andrew to our force. Secondly, we had to import somebody for me to say this is the best we could do. Kayla Richardson. As we say, she ain't from around here. She's from Wynne, Ohio, which is close to the Indiana border, and she has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Bluefield College. She originally started attending Mountain State College in Beckley to play soccer. However, the college closed about 2 years after she arrived. I don't know what that means, but she transferred to Bluefield to finish her degree and her playing career. The police academy locally has an agreement with Bluefield where we will allow a senior to finish their last semester in the police academy class, and they earn 15 hours of college credit, I believe, and they graduate from college, and then they graduate from police academy. The good thing is they have their state certification, and they're pretty much ready to go to work. She's got to do a week at driving school, but that's how we found her. And no small part there, I must say, to Floyd Bailey, who probably had a tremendous influence on her applying with us, because he and his family became acquainted with her early through church. Kayla graduated from Bluefield on May 3rd, and she was the top law enforcement graduate there. And she graduated. Who's the Bluefield fan?
Yes.
There you go.
She's an alumnus.
And she graduated from Police Academy on May 15th. Kayla is single, and she lives here in Abingdon.
Very good.
And finally, Miss Yancey Wilmuth. Yancey is from Emory. She holds a bachelor's degree in sociology from Emory and Henry. She played soccer there. I know there are a lot of Emory folks here. She played soccer there for 4 years. There's a theme to this soccer thing, I'm telling you. Yancey's association with the town actually began 3 years ago. She was my first intern. When Emory started their sociology department, had a crime and society track. They needed places to do internships, and I said, hey, I'll take them, hoping one day I might hire one just for a little while. Never dreaming that it'd be the first one, who was a fabulous intern, by the way. She was our first intern through that initiative, and thankfully she was a boomerang. She wanted to come back when she saw we had an opening. And Nancy is single, and she lives in Emory, and please welcome her to our force. And thank you all for letting me take this time to do that.
Well, thank you, and it certainly looks like you have a the class of 2014 looks to have real class about them, and we're certainly very pleased to have you folks on board with us. We are very proud of our town's police department. They're very professional, and as you noted, they're right out there where the public can see them. And Chief Sullivan has been very, careful about who he hires over the years, and we know that if he has confidence in you, that we can have confidence in you. And we thank you for your willingness to serve with us, and look forward to and hope that you'll have a long career here in Abingdon.
And I think that we need to ask Mr. Mayor, the chief, about a graduation in his own household this past weekend.
We could ask about that.
Yes, his oldest daughter graduated from high school on Friday night.
Yeah, I've
Miss
joined that
Riley
club.
Sullivan.
I've joined that club. I had one graduation high school.
Yeah.
All right.
And
She's going to play soccer.
She will be playing soccer, actually. She will be attending Brevard on a partial music scholarship and playing soccer at Brevard College in Brevard, North Carolina.
And I would like to point out that she shared that graduation evening with Rebecca Kelly, Mr. Kelly's daughter, his youngest daughter, who graduated also on Friday night. So we've had all kinds of milestones here. So.
And the funny thing is, of course, they played soccer together this year. And I've watched those two play soccer since they were that big. And boy, when we had our soccer awards banquet, I just bawled.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome.
Can y'all stand here and get the picture?
Please.
All together in the middle?
Yes.
Chief?
Absolutely. You tell it.
Yeah. This is the only time I'll have y'all together, so that's what
Make sure that was good.
Got one more here?
Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I'm sorry to say that I think the fun part of the evening is about over. Oh, yes, your minutes are just very definitely that. Speaking of those minutes, council, we have for our consideration this evening the work session meeting minutes of May the 5th, 2014, and the regular meeting minutes of that same evening. Are there any corrections or additions that need to be noted? Okay, what is your pleasure regarding this, please?
I'll make a motion, we go ahead and approve both sets of minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve both sets of minutes as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deering?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe? Aye. Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Thank you very much. We have for our consideration this evening on the first reading, preceded by a public hearing, an ordinance of the Council of the Town of Abingdon, Virginia, to repeal, amend, and reenact Appendix B zoning ordinance, Article 2, B2, General Business District of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Abingdon, Virginia. Mr. Garrett Jackson, our Assistant Town Manager, could you enlighten us on this, please, for what we have to consider?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, members of the public, at the last Planning Commission meeting held on Tuesday, 27th of May last week, the Planning Commission held a public hearing in regards to amending, reenacting, appealing, amending, and reenacting the Town of Abingdon zoning ordinance, Article 13, Section 11-2-3, special uses in regards to the addition of dog daycare and kennels in the B2 General Business District. The applicant at that time, who's here this evening, presented their plan for that specific business location, although this is just for the inclusion of dog daycare and kennels as a special use in the ordinance. If this is approved, the applicant would have to come back and apply for a special use permit to be allowed to do that. After a lot of discussion and weeding out some questions that the Planning Commission had, there was a vote. There were 4 ayes, 1 abstention, and 1 not present, and 1 nay. So the vote carried to include it as a recommendation to council, dog daycares and kennels as a special use in the B2 district.
Mr. Jackson, you mentioned this would be as a special use permit. Would you care to enlighten us, or just for everybody's understanding of what the difference is between that and when something is permitted by right?
If something is permitted by right in any zone, it's listed specifically in the ordinance. Therefore, there's no specific zoning requirements that have to go through other than coming to the zoning administrator, which is part of my position, and clearing it that it is a use that is allowed in that zone. If it's a special use, it's listed specifically, and it comes with an additional process. Public hearings have to be held. The members of the public who live adjacent or adjoining to that property are notified by the public hearing and by other mailings. Planning Commission holds a public hearing. At that public hearing, they can attach specific requirements to that permit, requiring the person requesting the special use to attach certain regulations to that regarding noise, smell, sightliness, things like that. And then they make a recommendation either for or against to the town council. The town council holds the same public hearing, and they can either overturn the Planning Commission's ruling or add to it or take from it and make a decision up or down in regards to the approval of that permit.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Jackson regarding what we're going to consider this evening?
I just have one question, Mr. Mayor, and that is during the, as you all were talking about the, whether or not that this should be repealed and reenacted, what was it? Was there any neighbors was any neighborhood dissension on this?
There was not, and as I stated earlier, this wasn't for a specific property.
Right.
The specific property was discussed in the meeting, but no, there were no business owners adjacent to or adjoining that showed up, and no other folks in opposition or even in favor within the town limits. This would be allowed in any B2 zone throughout the town if it were approved.
By special use?
By special use, yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions, Mr. Jackson, at this point? Okay, what we are going to be considering again tonight is adding as a special use permit in the B2 General Business District, permitting to have dog daycares and kennels by special use permit. That being said, I will declare the public hearing to be open. If there is anyone present this evening who wishes to address the council regarding this specific topic, they're welcome to come forward at the present time. And I would ask that you introduce yourselves so we can have your names read into the record, please.
Susan Faulkner, 155 Crestview Drive, Abingdon, Virginia. I'm actually I own the land and the properties around it for the majority. And this is the gentleman that will be renting and has a business plan for the next 5 years to implement. So I'll let him explain.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Honorable Council. I'm here to...
Now, this is the first time I can ever recall that.
This is...
Your
name.
My name is Ahmed Al-Basami, and I'm from Johnson City, Tennessee. I'm here, I've been doing a lot of searching and some research, market analysis, and I think a dog daycare business would do very well in Abingdon, where it wouldn't do very well in the other places that I've looked at. I have a plan for the next 5 years to work on bringing a dog daycare here, and I need to have a special use permit to do that. The dog daycare would just be a indoor play area for dogs, where people could bring in their dogs if they are working a lot or going on vacation or would like to get their dogs to have more exercise. We will be planning to incorporate a spa into it. The dogs will go outside for maybe periods of 10 minutes to 15 minutes, just to use the restroom out there. And then they'd be back inside where it'd be ventilated and cooled. I have a little bit of a handout here. Is it okay if I go ahead and pass it out?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Now, I would point out again, though, that should we approve this ordinance ultimately, it will be necessary for your specific venture to be brought forward for further discussion with the Planning Commission. Again, our action tonight would be to just permit this as a general principle in those areas, but go right ahead, sir.
So if, what we're trying to do is get this business into a B2 zone, and it's surrounded by just other businesses, and it'll be indoor. There won't be anything really outside. There's going to be a lot of tiering, where we're going to have noise pollution barriers to where the dog barking won't be leaking, polluting the neighbors and affecting the neighbors. As we run into certain issues, for example, if the noise isn't, if there is noise that we can't contain inside, then we'll take necessary measures to make sure that nobody around the area will be affected by it. I've been to several dog daycares. I've been studying this for a very long time, and from what I've seen, when I'm in the reception area of a dog daycare, there usually isn't much noise in the reception area, so that way the customer and the employee can actually interact with each other and hear and get the point across that they're trying to get through. If you guys have any questions, I actually have on the last page the layout of the building, and you can see where the tiering would be. The dogs would be in the back of the building. The outside area is to the right. I'm sorry, the outside area would be on the bottom, and so the building itself would actually contain the dogs. There'd be six foot barriers for the dogs and several gates and checkpoints where the dogs would be divided by size and temperament first. They'd be incorporated into the program by taking an assessment of the dog and seeing how it reacts with different social environments. If you look at the area back here, this is where the communal play areas would be. To the, your left side, to the top, that's where they'd be boarded overnight. Just like any other veterinarians when they do overnight boardings, stuff like that, except for the dogs would have exercise. They'd have big areas to play with. They'd be socialized with people. They'd be socialized with other dogs, which dogs don't really get to do very often. Yes. I'm sorry?
How many dogs do you anticipate being able to?
The building is large enough to where we could have up to 65 or 75 dogs, but we're probably not planning on having it that large. And we'll most likely have to employ, we'll be starting off with around 10 people and dividing the dogs up in separate communal play areas to make sure that the workload and the people that are actually going to be working inside the communal areas, the boarding areas, don't get overwhelmed with the amount of dogs. We have to have enough people to handle, the dogs. Okay. Yeah. Are there any other questions?
I mean, basically what you're telling us is that Abingdon is a market that you've looked at because
Definitely.
there aren't any dog daycares here.
They're
becoming very popular.
They are. They're becoming very.
Opportunities.
They're becoming very popular. A lot of people like to travel, and a lot of people have the issue. I myself like to travel, and I've had the issue my entire life as a dog owner with finding a place for my dog. And I don't like to have my dog sitting in a cage all night, and I don't like leaving my house open to strangers or leaving my dog with somebody that I don't know very well or doesn't have experience with dogs. And so this would be something that I think would work really well here. There's a lot of people around the area that I've noticed have dogs, and people here love their dogs. They love their dogs.
It's a service that you're going to provide for an unmet need.
Exactly. It's something that's not here. It's a service that I think would do really well here. What I'd like to do is in the future I have a plan to to work with shelters and bring in rescues, kind of bring in people into the area, get sponsor events with shelters and certain rescues where they'd come in and they'd do fundraising, dog washes. And I've been to several of these rescue events, and it's just it's a fun place to be. People that usually have their dogs come to these events are very likable people, and they get along and they have a good time and they share a common interest. And I don't see a place that would do as well here, other than this place here. I think it would work here very well.
All right, very good. Any other questions?
No questions, but I do have a comment that I left out earlier that does lend to this. Dog daycare and kennels are currently permitted uses in the M1 industrial district.
Okay.
That I left that out earlier, but.
All right. Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council this evening regarding this specific matter?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, there does not appear to be anyone else who wishes to address the council regarding this matter. I will therefore declare the hearing to be closed. And council, again, we have this item for our consideration this evening. We've had the first reading, and it has been the recommendation of the Planning Commission that we add the dog daycare facilities as a special use or permitted special use activity in the B2 General Business District. Does anyone wish to make a motion regarding this matter?
I'll move that we accept the application to amend and reenact the Town of Abingdon zoning ordinance, repeal, amend, and reenact Article 13, Section 11-2-3 for special uses in the B2 General Business District to add dog daycare/kennel.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I'm not going to repeat all that. You handled it very nicely the first time, but the net result would be that this would be on to approve it on the first reading to permit the dog daycare facilities and boarding facility in the B2 General District Business District. Is there any questions or comments regarding this matter? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deary?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, now we have for our consideration on the second reading, an ordinance of the Council of the Town of Abingdon to repeal, amend, and reenact Article 2, Chapter 66, Real Property Tax, Section 6642, the Code of the Town of Abingdon, Virginia, to amend the property tax exemption for property owners qualifying as elderly and/or totally permanently handicapped. Ms. Eisenhower, now, again, we've dealt with this on the first reading, but would you care to refresh our memories, please, on this?
Certainly. Honorable Mayor and Honorable Council, it's the second reading of this amendment, and we of course held a public hearing in the first reading at our May meeting. The amendment serves to increase or expand the exemption and abatement amount for qualifying property owners who are elderly or totally and permanently handicapped, and to bring said abatement levels to that of the county. That applies to real property taxes not to exceed 1 acre. And the town's tax application in this area has not changed in approximately 12 years. And inflation has increased more quickly than any cost of living could be afforded to this group. And for those reasons, and unifying that with the county's levels, the abatement currently amounts to about $5,000, and this will raise that level to $2,000 to $3,000 more. So the legal department would recommend the passage of the tax ordinance amendment, and so that it may become effective upon the new fiscal year, July 1, 2014.
Okay. Again, we have a recommendation from our legal department that we act on this on the second reading and enact the change in the tax policy as noted. Does anyone care to make a motion regarding this matter?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion. I move that we adopt the ordinance to amend and reenact Article 2, Chapter 66, real estate tax 66 through 42 of the Code of the Town of Abingdon to amend the property tax exemption for property owners qualifying as elderly and/or totally and permanently handicapped, sir.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to make the change as outlined. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deary?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We have next a consideration of a purchase of a 50 kilowatt generator.
No, sir. Yeah, one more ordinance.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Our next item, thank you, is an ordinance of the Council of the Town of Abingdon, Virginia, proposing a budget. I guess we probably ought to be sure and act on that one tonight. It'll come around eventually. All right, again, proposing a budget for the town of Abingdon, Virginia, and to make appropriation for the current expenses of the town, and to fix the tax rate upon real and personal property, to fix all other local tax rates and fees and rates on utility services for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2014, and ending June 30th, 2015. Mr. Jackson, would you care to make any comments about this for us, please?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, last month, Mr. Kelly, the town manager, provided you all with a summary for the process of the preparation of the FY 2014-2015 budget. He noted that the total proposed budget this year was in excess of $16 million, and noted that the tax rates, fees, and charges for the town would remain the same, with the only change for the 2014-2015 fiscal year being in the allowance for elderly and handicapped real property tax exemption, which you all just acted upon. And will increase once council approves that adoption tonight. He also commented that the total amount of the general fund equals $16,639,303, and the total amount of the sewer fund equals $3,013,118. He reported that the amount of $550,000 would be transferred from reserves to carry out the costs associated with capital improvement projects for the upcoming year. That would be with their sidewalk projects and any fleet vehicles that need to be purchased for the coming year.
Very good. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Jackson on this matter? I would note that I take great pleasure in the fact that we have managed for more than 10 years now to not have to raise the property and personal property tax rates here in town. I consider that to be a remarkable achievement, and I hope we'll be able to continue that, but I'm afraid we won't be able to make promises for future years, but we've managed fairly well over the last decade or so. Council, what is your pleasure regarding this matter, please?
I'll entertain a motion that we go ahead and approve this on second reading tonight.
Okay. We have a motion to approve this on the second reading this evening. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and second to make appropriation for the current expenses of the town and to fix the tax rate upon real and personal property and to fix all other local tax rates, fees, and rates on utility services for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2014, ending June 30th, 2015. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Rosenbaum if she'll call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deering? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Now, Mr. Bailey, speaking of that generator that we were talking about a minute or two earlier, the 50 kilowatt generator for installation at the police department building, would you care to enlighten us on this, please?
Yes, sir, Mayor Morgan and members of council. We saw bids for a 50 kilowatt generator to handle emergency power services for the police department. And for those who may not know, the police department also is the IT data center of sorts, where we host all of our websites, email, and security for the town's network, and as well as the wireless mesh network. And so this generator will provide not only emergency power for those functions, but as well the police department during any type of power outage, whatever the cause. This is a Caterpillar diesel fueled package generator set. that I have recommended to you based on the quotes that were received. This was the best value and responsive bid to the request of and needs of the police department. And so through a contract with NJPA, which is the National Joint Powers Alliance, which is a governmental co-op, Carter Caterpillar was able to win a bid nationwide to provide generators, particularly to governments and in all 50 states. And so their pricing for a new generator was little less than half of what the other bids were for the same equipment through this. And as well, they were able to upgrade from a 2-year warranty to a 5-year warranty at no added cost. The total requested price of $30,697.50. This is for the generator itself and its delivery. Upon its delivery, we will then seek bids for installation from local electricians.
So again, this would provide emergency backup power for our police station and information technology divisions, and would help us to maintain emergency services within our jurisdiction in the event of a power outage. And does anyone have any questions of Mr. Bailey about this? Okay. And if I understand it correctly, the money has been budgeted in this year's budget to cover this.
That is correct.
And the installation will be covered out of the budget.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Do you have a theory of when delivery could take place on this item?
It usually takes 30 to 45 days in manufacturing.
Okay. All righty. So again, we have a recommendation that we purchase a generator from Carter Equipment Company. And does someone wish to make a motion regarding this matter?
I'll entertain a motion. We go ahead and purchase this from Carter at the agreed on price, low bid.
Okay. And Mr. Bailey, if I'm correct, that low bid is $30,697.50.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Second.
All right. And is there a second to that motion? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Then we have a motion and a second to purchase a 50 kilowatt electric generator from the Carter Equipment Company, and the price for that would be $30,697.50. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Ms. Rosenbaum, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deering? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Okay, thank you. Our next item also relates to somewhat electrical stuff. I see, is it K2 or 3?
K1.
K1.
We have Kevin, one of the three that working for us this evening, who has an item that wishes to talk with us about regarding the fire control equipment at the parks at the Coombs Recreation Center.
Yes, Mayor Morgan and members of council, on Friday, May the 23rd, we had a malfunction in our fire alarm panel as a result of a power supply shorted out and destroyed the circuit boards inside the system. At that point, we contacted our service and monitoring company, Simplex Grinnell. They brought a service tech out to start checking on the unit. They were unable to repair it at that time, which, according to code, we had to have the staff go on fire watch on regular monitoring. As long as the building is staffed, we check all electrical rooms, chemical rooms, everywhere in the facility to monitor this. The technician came back the middle of the week, tried to work on the system again, was unable to make any repairs. At that time, we were told that the 20-year-old system, the circuit boards were no longer available, so they were trying to look for alternate sources. We were able to come up with this. So on Thursday, they had sent me a quote at my request to replace the entire fire system, fire monitoring panels, that would work with our current pull stations and fire sensors. And so the quote came back at $9,800. We've been working with this company as long as the building was, the Coombs Center was open in '94. They've been our servicing and monitoring company. And so according to the service rep, they said it will take 5 to 7 days to put something together. The system is built on a case-by-case basis to match the facility. So they will, they've actually been trying to round up the materials, but the total cost of $9,800 includes all parts, materials, and installation. And all the funds necessary to cover the cost are in our current fiscal year budget 2013-14, and can be covered under the line items that we had listed in the proposal. It's my recommendation that you allow us to accept this quote from Simplex Grinnell and allow Mr. Jackson, the Assistant Town Manager, to execute the purchase order necessary to move forward with this purchase.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions, Mr. Worley, regarding this matter? Thank you very much. We have a recommendation from Mr. Worley and his department that we accept a bid from Simplex Grinnell for $9,800 to cover the replacement of the fire control and monitoring system at the Coombs Recreation Center.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I think that should include, Mr. Mayor, if I don't overstep my bounds, that the town manager, assistant town manager can execute all the documents.
I don't believe you've overstepped your bounds at all. Thank you very much.
And I will amend my motion to include that the assistant town manager can execute all documents.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion, first of all, to accept the bid and not leave it lying idle, but to actually execute the documents necessary to make it come to fruition, to replace the fire control and monitoring system at the Coombs Recreation Center. Again, the price would be $9,800, and the contract would be awarded to the Simplex Grinnell Company. Any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, Ms. Rosenbaum, if you call the roll, please.
Mrs. During? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Our next item, we have a resolution of the town of Abingdon, Virginia, certifying the Virginia Retirement System, VRS, employer contribution rate, and authorizing the town manager and town treasurer to carry out the provisions of the resolution. And we have Ms. Deborah Atkins Vance, who is our Director of Human Resources, who's going to walk us through this, please.
Mr. Mayor, council members, as you know, we're requesting a resolution from the council. This resolution actually stems from the 2013 Appropriations Act. The language in it allows localities to make an election regarding their contribution rate. We've actually been given two choices, the 8.42% rate and the 6.76% rate, and we have elected to go with the full amount of 8.42% to avoid having to pay a larger amount in the future. The 8.42% will fully fund retirement, and we have traditionally been paying the 9.31%, so that we're requesting that to approve the resolution to pay the 8.42%.
Okay, and so again, if I understand this correctly, this is the funding that we're required to set aside to fund retirements of our employees in the Virginia retirement system.
Yes, sir.
And essentially, these are funds that come from directly from the town budget for this purpose, and there's additional withholding for this purpose that takes place from the employees' paychecks. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, and it's, if I understand it correctly, your recommendation that we fund at this 8.42%, which you feel will fully meet our requirements.
Yes, sir, it will.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of me regarding this matter? Okay, I have a resolution here, which frankly I'm not going to read, but essentially it indicates that it is our intention to certify the Virginia retirement system the employer contribution rate and authorizing the town manager and town treasurer to carry out the provisions of this resolution. And again, the rate we would be certifying would be 8.42%. Does anyone wish to make a motion to this effect?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll move that we adopt the resolution certifying the Virginia Retirement System known as VRS employer contribution rate 8.42% and authorizing the town manager and town treasurer to carry out the provisions of the resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution certifying that we will be making payments of equal to 8.42% into the VRS system. Any further discussion or questions about this? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk if she'll call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deering?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. And let me get organized here just slightly. And bear with me just a moment, please. Okay. We have several appointments tonight for our consideration. The appointments to the Tourism Advisory Board, where we have that may need to be made, also to the Redevelopment and Housing Authority Board, and we also have a request regarding the Veterans Memorial Park Board. I would, Council, do you feel the need to go into executive session for these appointments?
Mr. Mayor,
Probably need to go.
there were matters on the agenda that we
M's the first one there. You can get that.
Thank you very much.
easily missed, Mr. Mayor. easily
Well, it
missed.
is. I don't know how easily it is, but by golly, I have missed it, and it was not my intention. As I did mention, thank you. As I did mention earlier, we have the next item, which is matters not on the agenda. And if there are topics that are not on the agenda tonight that those who are with us this evening wish to bring to our attention, they're welcome to come forward at the present time. Come right forward, please.
I'd like to bring to your attention about...
I'll ask you to state your name and address.
Gary Rourke, 588 Lowry Drive.
Even though we know you well. Thank you, guys. Very good, sir.
I'd like to bring his attention to it, the looks and the paper and stuff that's across the road at the MXI building. I believe if anybody goes through there, they can see the big bundles out in there. They got that building for storage, but there's more outside, I believe, than inside. And I believe Charlie Castle even had to put a fence around his junkyard. So I would like to know if they're in their rights storing that.
Mr. Jackson, would you care to comment on that, please?
Sure.
I have to confess that I haven't been by there for a little bit.
And I haven't either. I spoke with LaVonda Rourke, Mr. Rourke's wife, on the 16th of May. At that time, she addressed those same issues as well as the weeds problem, the fact that the former sign was still up, and the graffiti. And was there something else? I think those were the main topics, and the cardboard that Mr. Rourke's talking about. And lighting, right. And I contacted C.J. McLaughlin, the code compliance officer, and asked that he issue notice of violation letters, which he did do that. They're in compliance with the sign and the mowing at this time, but the lighting, that, to my knowledge, has not been addressed.
There's no lights. Those lights have been turned off.
They have been turned off? Okay, I noticed they hadn't been moved. I didn't know if they'd been turned off. Okay.
Was the issue regarding the lighting that there was, or
Overflow
what?
onto their property.
Okay.
And as far as I spoke with both CJ and the building inspector about the cardboard. The cardboard is a fire hazard. Even though they have an adequate sprinkler system within the facility, putting it into the facility does up the use and the fire safety of that building. And they are within their rights to keep it outside. It is unsightly, especially that's right out your all's window.
Yes.
But it is within their rights to keep it in the yard there.
The mold of the rain and the cardboard, have y'all ever smelled cardboard wet?
No.
But as far as it being an industrial use, they do have that right to keep it there. CJ has addressed with them in some way to screen that. They have the right to keep it there, but do it in such a way that it's not unsightly to the neighbors. At this time, they have not addressed that. They do have an additional 21 days by the notice of violations that were given out on the 16th of May, so they do have about 8 more days left to comply with that at this time.
The barrels that they store over there on the ground that just stacked there, they expand like gunshots going off during the day when it gets warm. It's constant banging of the drums, and all the pallets piled up there. I mean, if you be worth your while to go down there and look at it.
Well, I suspect we all will.
Yeah, I will.
And
If it's
It's worse.
Is it really?
It's everything I expected, and I hope that y'all could help us out. I mean, my property is values went down, and I sure look to y'all to help me on this. And I like to be a good neighbor, and I don't like to complain.
Well,
But this paper's blowing everywhere, and those bales, that's not adequately. I mean, you store them outside, it ain't nothing but a rat trap, and the smell of the cardboard being wet's just like recycled trash. And I think wise recycling would probably be an upgrade to it. I don't want it down.
well, we appreciate you coming by and letting us know that there is a problem there. I'll have to say, well, I'm sorry to hear that there are some concerns, but I'm quite confident that Mr. Jackson and our staff will be closely monitoring this situation and trying to work with the folks to see if we can resolve some of these concerns that have been raised. And, well, and I
went up for sale beside of me. I mean, they wore out.
Well, and I can assure you we will all go by and have a look here in the next little bit.
I appreciate that, Mayor.
Okay, thank you for coming by, and we'll see what we can do here. Okay. All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council this evening? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, can I brag on one of our town staff?
Oh, you're more than welcome to brag on one of our town staff.
Kevin Worley spoke to the Abingdon Rotary Club about the refurbishing of the Rotary Park at the Coombs Center, and he gave such a great speech that he got a $5,000 commitment to redo to make it handicap accessible.
Very good, sir, and thank you to Rotary for that also. We look forward to seeing that. And which park are we anticipating that?
It's the playground in front of the Coombs Center.
Okay, very good. And while we have you here, can you briefly tell us what kind of changes will be made or what we'll be doing to make it a bit more handicapped accessible?
Yes, what we're going to do is we're going to, we've talked about building a handicap accessible or a handicap compliant playground, somewhere in the community. The best place, the needs that will meet the best needs, Mr. Jackson and I have talked about this for 2 or 3, 4 years now, trying to really get a good fit. But what we're going to do is, where the current play station is, we're going to work within the system there, the current play station, to make it more compliant, but we're going to add on to that play station and really work to meet the needs of the community that we've missed, and that is to service those who have limited mobility, the high school students, their handicapped children, the middle school, and working with them. We will have not only playground equipment there that the general population can use, but they will have very specific equipment within this, wheelchair swings that will actually be able to roll a wheelchair in. There will be seats that someone who has very limited mobility will be able to sit in and swing, but it will also incorporate the general population so they can all play together. I've used this phrase before. If you want the greatest equalizer is you put kids on a playground, there is no black, white, red, yellow, green. There is no male and female. There is no handicap. They all play together. And no better place to put it than at the Coon Center, where we're already drawing the children in, and we'll be able to bring those kids right across the street. Because right now, the Washington County school system is busing those children to Kingsport. That's the closest place they can play on a playground. So we need the community to get behind this, and I'm lined up with anybody and everybody who will hear me. I want to speak to any group, any civic organization, any business. We're going to build a playground, and we're going to meet the needs, and we're not going to do this 10 years. We're going to do this now. So we're working very diligently with the school system to get grants and anything that we can do, any pledges, and we've got some other ideas to generate some funds as well. So the total cost to do this project is going to be about $150,000, and I don't think I'm going to have a bit of problem getting the money.
Rotary threw out the challenge.
All right.
Rotary laid down the first pledge, and everybody else's job now is to step up and at least match that or better. So that's my challenge to everybody when I go out.
Well, thank you, and we're very appreciative that this is moving forward, and we'll look forward to having the groundbreaking and the ribbon cutting for this.
Sounds good.
All righty. Again, is there anyone else who wishes to address the council this evening? How about council member reports? Mr. Humphreys, anything? I believe you may have.
I actually do have a couple of, I think it's one really, and it's kind of with deep regret that I want to just make an announcement that James Hubert Repass Sr., all his name is Mule, passed away just short of his 98th birthday. Mule was a stalwart in the community, ran the Texaco service station across from the Baptist Church for over 47 years. And just a great man. Of course, he had two sons, Jimmy Repass, Little Mule, everybody knows probably Jimmy, can wear red, white, and blue better than anybody else, and you don't know where to shake his hand or salute him. So, and then there's also Sam Repass, and then his daughter, Nancy Bullock. And so, just want to, my condolences out to them, and I'm sure the council probably joins me in that. Someone who was just a real community leader for many, many years. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Vice Mayor Lowe?
I've already told you my story.
Okay. Mr. Howard?
I don't think I have anything.
Ms. Dury?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Okay. Well, I'll throw one thing out for your consideration, and I may get the name wrong here, but we'd like to say that graduates of Abingdon High School will go far. And I'm pleased to report that over the last week, two Abingdon High School graduates, one of whom was my son Peter, and a young woman by the name of, I'm going to forget her name, Ella Clay, who is a 2007 graduate of Abingdon High School, happened to find themselves in the same race, so to speak, in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. My son Peter was running in the 24-hour race, which he managed to win. He ran 125 miles and change in a 24-hour period. And Ms. Clay, who was a 2007 graduate, ran in the 12-hour race, and she won that, running a distance of, I believe it was 67 miles in 12 hours. So again, Abingdon graduates do manage to go far, and my son and Ms. Clay had never met prior to that race, and they didn't know that neither one of them knew that the other was going to be in the race, and it's really quite a remarkable set of circumstances that they had. But we're very proud of both of them, and it's like I say, mom and dad are very, very proud. Okay, does anybody else have anything that they
That should be on the news, Mr. Mayor. I swear, that's one of those things those do is just...
well, a press release...
That's a lot of miles.
It is. My son won $100, which is not quite $1 a mile, and he did get a clock.
78 cents a mile.
No, it won't, but he's certainly not in it for the money, I guess. And he certainly married a woman who was very tolerant of and supportive of his hobbies. So, anyway, I thank you for indulging me in that. Anything else that we have this evening? Okay, we have appointments to boards and committees, and again, we have an appointment to the Tourism Advisory Committee, the Redevelopment Housing Authority, and the Veterans Memorial Park Board. Does anyone, do you wish to go into executive session to discuss these appointments?
I think part of it, Mr. Mayor, we can pair off before we go into executive session if you want to.
We can, and I bet I've got an idea of which ones. Would you care to make a motion regarding?
I will. I would move that we appoint Janet Woolwine to serve a second term on the Tourism Advisory Board.
Uh-huh.
I would also, I don't know if we want to do this separate altogether. I can do them all together or separately.
Why don't you try them and
Okay.
see if we.
The other two I move that we table, and that's the board, the Housing and Redevelopment Board, to table to the next meeting, along with the Veterans Park Board, after we consult with those, both those chairs of that. The Abingdon Housing and Redevelopment Authority actually is meeting tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think maybe will bring us a name forward of someone that they would like, that they think would like to serve.
They've submitted.
Oh, have they?
Which one?
Well, I don't know that they were specifically
No.
submitted by the Housing Authority.
No, they haven't submitted. I don't have anything.
No, but I talked to Dan Smith on
We have
Saturday.
two
Oh, you've got
individuals.
two applications in your packet.
Yeah, we
Yes.
have two individuals that expressed that. And how about the appointment to the Tourism Advisory Committee? There was Mr. Ellis's term is completing, and he's not eligible for reappointment. Do you wish to make that appointment tonight, or do you wish to handle it next week?
Well,
Mr. Mayor, could I comment on that one?
Yes.
Mr. Costello, I spoke with before he's out of town this week. Talked to him last Friday. He has taken this, is supposed to take this to the Tourism Advisory Committee for a recommendation at the next meeting for someone to fill the restaurant spot, because it needs to be a restaurant.
So
spot,
let me,
what he told me.
so let's do this in two motions. Let me amend the motion and say, I move to appoint Janet Woolwine for second term on Tourism Advisory Committee.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion to reappoint Janet Woolwine for a second term on the Tourism Advisory Committee. Any further discussion, comments? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Jerry? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Okay, and would you care to continue, sir?
Yes, sir, and I would move that we table the appointment, the additional appointment to the Tourism Advisory Board and the Housing Authority Board and Veterans Park Board, pending their recommendations.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second?
Okay, is there discussion or comment?
I'm just a little bit surprised that is this a new protocol that we're getting?
Nope.
That we're getting?
No, it's not a protocol, it's not a precedent, it's nothing of the sort. It's, a motion that has been made for
I
consideration.
guess my question was, when did our boards start making recommendations? Because I thought we took applications from interested citizens.
We do take applications from interested citizens, but it's also within our purview, if we wish, to take recommendations from the specific committees. We can act as we feel, appropriate. We can, I don't feel that there is a precedent being established or
I think
anything.
we've always done both.
Yeah.
If I could comment, the
Yes, ma'am.
tourism advisory bylaws, I believe, call for someone to be a representative from the restaurant community, and I
It does,
believe
but-
that that's why he wanted to do that particular one. Now, the housing authority,
The Housing Authority, as I was talking to Dan Smith, we were talking about Mike Rush ascending up temporarily, and whether Mike might want to, if they appoint someone that's not Mike Rush, step back down to a position. So that will leave, to leave a vacancy open. And so he's basically said they were meeting Tuesday night, and he could solicit that to see exactly how that they want to proceed. But, whatever that, if the council wishes not to do that, then I think we...
I'm not, I just don't want to make these boards exclusive enough that you have to be recommended by the
Right.
committees, because that kind of sometimes leaves regular citizens out of the application process. So I'm not opposed or for, I just, I don't want to start something that says that you have to be approved of by that committee.
And I agree with Councilman Lowe.
Has it been advertised?
And I agree with you, Kathy. Ms. Lowe, excuse me.
Had we asked for
Councilwoman.
The, no, we have on the housing authority, but not on the tourism.
Yeah, and I think we're certainly receptive to,
About the restaurant position in tourism, and I've talked to Ken about that.
Right, I mean, we get some happy surprises
Yeah.
when we have people apply,
Mhm.
and, you know, and they're great assets, whereas you might not know that they would be if you are
Mhm.
getting a recommendation from within the committee. So I just don't want to, you know,
Well, they're just recommendations. We
yeah,
gotta make
right,
a call.
that's right. That doesn't mean we're
Yeah,
under
they
field
approve or not.
obligation to act on them.
When
So,
a recommendation is made, we still expect that person to fill out an application.
Yes.
oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
State your
Okay.
name, please.
All right.
And your address, we tell the microphone.
I'm perfectly happy with putting that.
Okay, as I understand the motion that we have out here, it's basically that we're going to table the other appointments that we have on our agenda this evening, which would be for the restaurant position, on the Tourism Advisory Board, the housing position, and we had one for the Veterans Memorial Park, which I believe our town attorney was going to make some inquiries about, and so forth. Is that a fair statement of it?
Yes, and I think not resting on any particular reason, just that we just table them.
Okay, very good, sir. All righty, we have a recommendation, motion that we table them. Is there a second?
Yep, Mrs. Jerring seconded.
Okay, we have that second. Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk if she'll call the roll for one more time this evening.
Mrs. Jerring? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Thank you very much, council, and thank you all who came and very patiently sat with us this evening. If I recall, I do want to be clear on one thing. Our next council meeting, will that be on July the 1st? 7:30 in the morning, all right.
Oh, gosh, I just gave Ms. Jerring a hard time.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Okay, so we will have a meeting on, our biannual reorganization meeting will be held on Tuesday, July the 1st. That will be downstairs, that will be where, up here? Okay. All right, and that will be at 7:30 in the morning. We don't usually meet at 7:30 in the morning. We don't, we don't usually meet at 7:30 in the morning, but we're required by law to basically have a reorganization before business begins on the first day of the new budget. So that has been our custom. We could do that. All right, that's something to think about, actually. All right, anybody else have anything? I will declare us adjourned. Thank you for coming.